Should we talk about the solo Nod-Krai Nefer stuff? Like, that's the thing. Like, as far as I'm concerned, that's just dog shit. You lose out on so much damage. I know it's free, there's no reason to do that. The thing is, Llama's not balanced, so if you don't have Llama, the default Nefer playstyle isn't actually better than just playing her in Hyberbloom. But, like, I don't want to talk about that, you know? Like, it's not that much better, and you're basically not using her kit. I don't know, it just feels wrong. Like, if you don't have Llama, and your next best option is, like, for now, let's just look at Nahida. God, it's such a big 30k DPS, man. Jesus Christ. Oh boy. But with Nahida, it's still slightly better than just straight up Nefer Hyperbloom. But what if you don't have Nahida? What the fuck else would you use? Baiju? Oh, disgusting. Yeah, no, that's just cooked. I guess we can take a look at Collei. Sure. Collei C6 with Chainbreaker at around 85k. I'm not adjusting the template for Hyperbloom, so I'll have to do a separate calc altogether. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Yeah, so yeah, I think no Gleam Nefer is kinda bad, actually. I think it might be too bad. It might be a little bit too bad. The worst part is, like, unironically, like, something like this is, like, probably kind of competitive with, like, C0 Collei in something like this, but, like, ugh. Let's, Llama and Nilou. This is gonna be with Kuki. I think I'll do percentage of the Kuki team, because I think the Kuki team should be the default one. Make a new one, and I look at Ineffa on... I think I'll look at no Q Ineffa on a better weapon. No Q Ineffa on Deathmatch, I guess. I need to have Deathmatch here, then. Deathmatch. I do Ineffa. There we go. No Lauma 1 with Nahida on 5 Codex. That's so goddamn pathetic. No Llama 2 will be Collei. Collei C6. That's so goddamn pathetic. Jesus Christ. I guess we can look at Fischl. Chainbreaker. We'll call this no sustain 1. Oh, with fixed lunar charge procs, Fischl's actually slightly ahead of Ineffa. That's crazy. Yeah, we can look at Sucrose as well. That's fair. No sustain 2. We'll look at Sucrose 2 swaps, I think, because I'm pretty sure that's better. 2 swap Sucrose, sac frag. No sustain 2. Nahida. Codex. Zhongli. We can have Zhongli as well on Reliance. Yeah. This is full defense Zhongli, so you can maximize the passive. Oh yeah, we can look at no Lauma C1 Nefer C1 as we look at Nahida. 3 characters. The thing with 3 characters is your rotations are too short if you just don't swap to the last character. So you kind of just can't do that. But you can do like 3 characters plus 1 character that doesn't do anything except maximize the like stat that like gives the lunar bloom bonus. You just use one of their skill or burst and you swap out without them doing anything else. Because I had a nobody, but you still have to extend the rotation length because otherwise your rotation is just too short. But this is nobody on Serenade. Who would be like a good example of a character we could use here that would just like function as a pseudo nobody? Qiqi. Straight up, let's just use Qiqi. But yeah, like the point I'm making with Qiqi here is it just does not matter who you use on the last slot. The difference between the very best possible choice, which is probably Fischl, and Qiqi is like 15%. It is not that big of a deal. How is it better than Nahida? It's not. Nahida's better. Let's also look at just C1 and R1. But yeah, so between C1 and R1, they're basically the same. Between C2 and C1 R1, you'd rather go C1 R1. If I want Nefer to be decent, I have to go for Sig and or C1. What the fuck are you talking about, buddy? What do you mean by that? This is more than decent. This is pretty good. Is a Sucrose on fake? It's half fake, kinda. Are these calcs for C0 or 0? Unless it's specified otherwise, yeah. What does the team look like with C0? Aino? Yeah, we can take a look at that as well. So, Aino C0. You lose about 5k DPS. Nilou, yeah. Nilou C2 is only slightly better than Aino C1. It's worse than Aino C6. Their animations are just too long. Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, wait, you're right, Vampire for Gore. So yeah, it's just worse than Aino C1. My goodness. Sapwood isn't really realistic. I don't think Sapwood is unrealistic if Aino isn't on first Regalia. I think one of these two will be on the Leaf Weapon, but you can't really get both. Sapwood has a 20-second. Yeah, I'm assuming every other rotation on Sapwood. Add C6. Aino? Sure. Sapwood is as real as Petra? No, because with Petra, you have to pick up the crystal before you swap to your carry. With Sapwood, you have to pick up the leaf on your carry, but like, you see where the leaf is. Worst case scenario, you pick it up after your first charge attack instead of before. Especially because Nefer has dash cancels in her optimal combos. There is no reason not to pick up the leaf. Calc, Widsith, Widsith is slightly better than Blackmarrow. Widsith R5, 1% better on average. But yeah, it only does something useful when you get the EM buff. But when you get the EM buff, it's really good. But that's only 1 out of every 6 rotations, so it doesn't happen that often. Widsith is fake as hell, you're not getting any buff 83% of the time. The thing is, Widsith with no buff isn't that much worse than Blackmarrow. No buff Widsith is like 108k, which is 5% worse than Blackmarrow. And with the EM buff, it's 25% better than Blackmarrow. And it averages out to be very similar. Another weapon we can look at is a new one, right? Frost Star. Frost Star R1. Frost Star R5. You try Layla with Key as a 3rd slot because besides Aino, it'll be basically the same as Qiqi. A bit better because of the key, but is it actually better? Because do you even proc the fucking key on Layla? You have to stay on her for so long to actually get the proc, so it's probably not actually very good. You probably just don't proc it, like, at all. Is Aino C1 a must? No, not at all. Honestly, maybe I should actually just use Aino C0 as the default, because most people don't have the C1 unless they're going for Flins. And then we could have, like, a technically 2-cost section, or she technically 2-cost with Nefer on Frost Star R5. Aino C6. I guess if we really want to min-max things here, might as well go Fischl on Chainbreaker. Technically 2-cost. Right, so Nefer's technically gonna have a 2-cost team at 140k. I wonder if that's 139. To go Nahida with Nefer C1. No, that's worse. Alright, but like, this is not real. Because it's using a 4-star gacha exclusive weapon at R5 that you're never gonna get. And C6 of a character that is recent and not on her banner, or on a banner of a character that you want to use with her. Like, that's why I'm calling it technically 2-cost, because technically it's 2-cost, but practically it's not. Why Chainbreaker over Stringless? Chainbreaker is pretty similar damage-wise, but because it's an attack weapon, you get a bigger Lunar Bloom buff to Nefer from Fischl being an electro character that isn't from Nod-Krai, so the DEI resonance gives a lunar reaction damage based on her attack. Is LG better than Chainbreaker? Yeah. Is Fischl the best option for pure damage? From what I've seen, it seems so, but it's not far enough from Kuki to justify losing all your defensive options. This is C6 Fischl, yes. What build on Kuki is best? Attack, damage, crit. Does C2 Nahida help her in any meaningful way? It's okay. The thing is, Nahida by default isn't the best option. So while C2 Nahida is good, it's not that much better than the alternatives. It's about 10% better than using Kuki, but you don't have a healer anymore. I guess you could use Proto Amber to have a pseudo healer, but yeah. Yeah, we can have Furina as well, I guess. I think I had Furina set up with this, but did I not? Did I not have Furina? I guess we can add her then. You can also have Yelan. Yelan would be on Bow. No, 18.5 is fake. It's gonna be longer than that, isn't it? Probably more than 4 hours, probably 5 at least, maybe even more, 5.5. Then we have Xingqiu. Xingqiu half Q, Sapwood, Blade. Okay, we have Yelan, Xingqiu. So, Xingqiu's slightly better than Aino C0, worse than Aino C1. Does that make sense? Kinda. The only problem with Xingqiu is if you get hit 4 times, you lose your Verdant Dews on the rotation where you don't have burst, which is really funny. Why? Because your rotations are shorter than 20 seconds, so you burst every other rotation and you skill on the other one. But on the rotation where you skill, if you get hit 4 times, like every time you get hit, when you don't have your burst active, you lose one of your rain swords to reduce the damage. So after 4 hits, you don't have rain swords anymore, so you don't apply hydro anymore. Let's look at Furina next. This will be Furina on Serenity's Call, on Serenade, Kuki, on Instructor, on Sapwood Blade. Now we check triple HP Furina, lose the crit value from crit circlet, gain HP circlet. It's slightly better. Bet. Furina. Is that true? I guess so. I guess Furina's ever so slightly better than Aino for these. Like, she's worse than Aino C6, but she's actually better than Aino C1 by like 2%. What about Furina C2? You don't use her burst, so it doesn't change anything. Are the rotation times too fake? Kind of, but like not really. It's something I'll talk about in the pre-release. Furina, Instructor, Furina Sapwood, and then Ineffa, Deathmatch. Very real team. I think that's what we'll call this one, because it's a very real team. Fixing to weapon not being stacked, you're not bursting. What do those two statements have to do with each other? Since your weapons shouldn't be stacked, because you're not bursting. You burst every other rotation. You alternate using burst and using skill. Is 1 E enough Hydro? I mean, it kind of is. Like, Xingqiu E Hydro app is pretty similar to Kokomi. What if the orbitals break? Well, yeah, that's the downside of using Xingqiu. Add colors, please. Fine. Okay, we can sort now, sure. And like, these are fake. Like, these are constellation stuff. For C0 stuff, it's this. Well, it's not all C0 stuff, but like for C0 Nefer stuff. There's one Nefer C1 sneak. Yeah, but that's just to signify that, like, if you don't have Lauma, you can make a team that's somewhat similar to the Lauma teams from getting C1 or R1 on Nefer. I'm okay with this one being there. What's the problem with the Ineffa Furina team that makes it very real? You're using units that other teams want a lot, and what you're gaining out of it is barely anything. How is Nefer, Lauma, Nahida, Aino worse on the Kuki team? Because Nahida's burst animation is really long. Just when it comes to the damage per rotation, right? If you look at Kuki, you're at 1.7 million. If you look at Nahida, you're at 1.9 million. But the rotation is 2 seconds longer, which makes it just worse. But there's nuance to this. Yeah, I should make a proper weapon calc too. So we have Blackmarrow. Let's have this here. Let's have this show up as a percentage. Let's take a look at a few. So, we know Sig is about 24% ahead. The new weapon is 1 to 10 based on refinement. Oh, I already had Lost Prayer. Lost Prayer is worse. 1,000 Floating Dreams on Nefer, slightly better, but 101. And if we add 40 EM here, it's better to put it on someone else. I guess it's reasonable, but yeah, you shouldn't really use it here. Okay? Starcaller's Watch is slightly better, but not much. Tome of Eternal Flow is slightly better. And Nightweaver's decent amount better at 109%. But what about using Nightweavers on Lauma? It's actually basically the same. That's so funny. That's pretty funny, yeah. I guess it's just because Blackmarrow was already pretty good. Okay, what about the 4-star weapons that you could consider? So your default 4-star is Blackmarrow, and it's craftable, so everyone can have it. So shit like Mappa Mare shouldn't even be considered. You could look at Fruit of Fulfillment, but not really good. I guess we look at Widsith, Sac Jade, and that's it, really. Sac Frag. Sac Frag is kind of fake, though. They do not have Sac Jade. What about Sac Frag? You lose like 7% DPS, but the proc doesn't really help. Like, that's the thing. What about Magic Guide? That's not it. Magic Guide was okay on Nahida because she actually cared about the damage percent. Nefer doesn't. It's just straight up worse. It just gives you less EM than the 4-star craftable, on top of not having a useful passive. Twin Nephrite. So true. Let me add Sac Jade. Ever so slightly better than craftable. And the refines don't help that much. Yeah, okay. By the way, chat, the main reason for that is because when you look at the stats you get from Sac Jade, right? 32% HP is the equivalent of more than 6 HP rolls. 40 EM is 2 EM rolls. Sac Jade is balanced to be a lot more skewed towards its HP buff than its EM buff. So it's not actually that good for EM scalers. It's still fine because it's a crit stat stick, but the effect is only 40 EM. That's not a lot. Yeah, sure, at R5 it's 80, but an additional 40 isn't that much, right? If I just add 40 EM, ooh, we gain like 3%. It's whatever. Isn't it a good Milani weapon? Yeah, because she likes HP. But yeah, then there's also like the additional like crit problem, which is when you're using a crit rate weapon on a character who wants a crit rate set, it's very easy to overcap your crit. Yeah, I guess we can also have Blackmarrow R1. Sure, Blackmarrow R1, 3.5% worse. Real man use Widsith, so true. I mean, honestly, I'd say that if you have an R5 Widsith, I would recommend using it over Blackmarrow. Because, like, it's only like a 4% nerf if you get the wrong buff compared to Blackmarrow, but it's a 25% buff if you get the right one. Basically, if you low roll Widsith, it's very similar to Blackmarrow, but you now have the option to high roll. 1 out of 9 rotation, it's an upgrade. It's not 1 out of 9, it's 1 out of 6. Her team has 0 damage outside of her. Yeah, she is pretty much the definition of a hyper carry.
Goose on the loose!
Yeah.
Goose on the loose!
Goose on the loose!